Before we start the video, I'd just like to introduce our new revision package. For $10, you get 7 days access to our entire ACCA Performance Management exam course. For more details, please check out the links in the description below. And now, on to our video. Hello everyone, and how are you all doing today? So today we're going to be doing yet another past paper question for the ACCA Performance Management exam. The question we're going to be doing today is the December 2019 exam, Section C, Scenario 2. And this question relates to a company called Robin Holt University. And the question is basically one of your typical analysis questions where you need to perform the financial and non-financial analysis for a company. So it's very similar to the questions we've done previously on the same topics such as Jungle Co. and Best Night Co. But it has a small little twist in it, which is why I felt that it would be good practice to cover this question. Again, this is arguably the most common type of Section C question that you can get in the exam. It pretty much appears in every version. So keep in mind that in the computer-based exam, there are different versions of the exam. So the student next to you won't necessarily have the same questions as you do. And due to that, some students might get these questions, but others might not. That being said, it usually tends to appear in each and every sitting in at least one of the versions. So it's an important question to know, and that's why we're going to be practicing this. So as always, we're going to start with the requirement. Now, the requirement says, using Robin Holt's 5 strategic aims, assess its performance for 2016 probably, right? For 20 marks, note there are 4 marks available for calculation and 16 marks available for discussion. So the requirement again is one requirement, all for 20 marks, and it's for the overall performance of the company. 4 marks for calculation, 16 marks for discussion. Just like Jungle Co. and Best Night Co., there's a split between the calculation and discussion marks. In this case, there's very few marks for calculations. Most of the marks are for discussion. But the twist in this question is, it says using Robin Holt University's 5 strategic aims. Now, generally when we do analysis questions in F5, and you'll especially see this later on if you do the P5 exam, which is Advanced Performance Management, that the mission statement, the objectives, the strategic aims of the company are critical, and you must always consider them when performing the analysis of the company. But we saw in Jungle Co. and Best Night Co. that the strategic aims didn't really play much of a part in our analysis. But in this question, the requirement explicitly states that we need to perform the analysis in line with the strategic aims. So the way we go about structuring our answer here is that we make headings for the strategic aims, separate subheadings, and we analyze each of the aims separately. But we would approach it in a similar manner to Best Night Co. or Jungle Co. in the sense that we would still start with the case, go sentence by sentence, stop at any point where we see there's something that we can make a point about, and then perform any relevant calculations and make our points, link them to the calculations, and move on in that regard. From the examiner report standpoint, the examiner did make a bit of a fuss about the fact that the performance for this question was not as good as it was for previous similar questions in previous sittings, and the students were making mistakes in the calculation of by not showing the percentage change calculation between numbers, but rather showing the absolute change, incorrectly performing the percentage change calculation, and of course the all too common that they were making points without linking it back to the case. So we need to make sure we do not do the same. So let's start with our case scenario. As we said, we'll need to make headings for the 5 strategic aims. So it says Robin Holt University has 5 strategic aims, and they're a bit long. We can possibly use shorthand versions of them as our headings, but if you want, you can write down the whole thing, though I think it will take a bit too much time. So this is going to be Scenario 2, Part A. As always, we start by labeling our parts and making them bold so that they're distinguished from the rest of the answer. And now we move on with our subheadings. So again, we'll make the subheadings distinct as well. So the first aim is to provide education which promotes intellectual initiatives and produces confident and ambitious graduates who have reached the highest academic standards to prepare them for success in life and the workplace. So all this drawn out point, but what they're basically saying is, if you were to summarize this point, is to provide high quality education to prepare graduates for success in life and the workplace. So we can shorten it like that. So the aim would be to provide high quality education to prepare graduates for success in life and the workplace. I'm putting this on the second line because so that it stays on screen, but yeah, just show it as one line ideally. Okay, so let's go through the case. So what we're looking for here is how the metrics that we can use to determine whether high quality education is being provided to the graduates, specifically in the context of them being successful in life and the workplace. So it says Robin Hood University is one of the largest and most popular universities in the country of Richbury. It has 27,000 registered students in 2016, whereas in 2015 the number of registered students was only 24,000. And they have managed to increase the student numbers in 2016 by making entry requirements for students slightly lower than in previous years. And all courses for the university last for 3 years. So immediately off the bat, we can see that they're trying to get in more students, but they're doing so by lowering the entry requirements. So the students aren't going to be of the same high caliber that they were in previous years. And that could obviously then translate poorly later on in the terms of the quality of the students being produced. So this could be an applicable point. Let's just start with making our calculation for the increase in the number of students. So this will be our number of students, and we'll have the format for each year. So we have 2016 and 2015. And we'll have a column for the percentage change. So these headings, let's just align them towards the center, and let's just drag these out a bit so that they're all seen. Okay, and let's just input our numbers. So 27,000 and 24,000, and we have, let's format these into the accounting format with comma so that they're easier to read. For the percentage change calculation, again, what was the examiner saying? Do not show the absolute change. So you can't say 27,000 minus 24,000. That's the absolute change in terms of dollars. That's not what the examiner wants. We must always assess our change in terms of percentage. So what you'll do is you'll take the current year number minus the previous year number divided by, you can do either the current year number or the previous year number. The more technically sound way is to use the previous year number, so 24,000. And let's just format this in terms of percentage. So we get around 12.5% change in students. So again, we need to see, now we can make the point potentially that lower level standard of students would lead to lower quality education, and the graduates might not be as successful in life and the workplace. But we need to remember that all courses last for 3 years. So these new students with the lower requirements would not be coming into the university right now, as in they won't be graduating, they're just coming into the university. So their impact might be felt in a few years. It's not necessary it will be felt entirely right now, but let's see about that as we go through the metrics. So there's plenty of numbers over here. Can we link any of these numbers to the quality of education and providing high academic standards? So we have tuition fees, we have research grants and conferences and other events. Then we have a cost, academic staff cost for the professors, admin staff cost for the rest of the staff, premises, facility and technology cost, event and conference cost, all of this. Well, there doesn't seem to be much in the way of what we can talk about in terms of the quality of the education. And again, it's a financial statement. These are quantitative metrics, not qualitative metrics. Let's go further down below. Then it says every year, final year students complete an external survey run by the National Organization for Students. In this, they have to agree or disagree with statements made. Extracts from this for the last 2 years are shown below. The percentage rates show the number of students who agreed with the statements made. So teaching, the course is intellectually stimulating and quality of teaching is high. So last year it was 86% students agreed, now it's only 83%. So there's a fall in this, right? So we could use this. Let's just read the rest of the points to see if we can use any of them and then make our point. Academic support, I have received good advice and support with my studies from academic staff. This has also fallen. Organization and management, the course is well organized and administration is good, fallen. Learning resources, fallen. Personal development, this has actually increased. Overall satisfaction has fallen. And it says the overall satisfaction percentage is used by the education authority to set maximum tuition fees that the university can charge each year and is seen as a main measure of success both internally and externally. So the all-important metric of overall satisfaction, which can influence the tuition fees and thereby the revenue of the university, as well as its main measure of success, has actually fallen. But we're talking for a specific goal right now. Since we've already read through this much, let's just quickly see what the rest of the stuff is about before we start making our points for this. So other key information, students graduating with the first class honors degree, highest class attainable, this has fallen. So this will be relevant as well, because remember, we need to check if the education prepares them for success in life and the workplace. So the quality of students seems to be falling, their grades seem to be falling. Employers happy with the graduates, once again, life in the workplace, so this would be relevant. This has also fallen. Ratio of students to staff members has increased, likely due to the increase in number of students, but that would again compromise the quality. Ideally, you need to have fewer students per staff member so that the staff can devote more time per student. So we can link this to the increase in number of students. Staff retention rate has fallen as well, so people are leaving much quicker. All of these could be linked over here as well. After that, it says the staff retention rate in 2015 was consistent with previous years. Data gathered from students who graduated in 2015 showed that 65% students found a graduate job within a year of leaving compared to 68% in 2014's graduates. So this metric, again, for success in the workplace has been falling not just from last year, but for a few years back. And after that, the next points about environmental awards and stuff like that, I don't think those would be relevant. Okay, so let's structure our whole argument. Once again, it's always good practice just to read through the point again to make sure we hit all the points. So it says to provide education which promotes intellectual initiative and produces confident and ambitious graduates. So you want high quality education and high quality graduates who achieve high standards to prepare them for success in this life and the workplace. So we can start by talking about the number of students. The number of students has increased by 12.5%. This was due to the lower entry requirements by the university. Right off the bat, this will start lowering the quality of graduates produced by the university. The impact might not be immediate, however, it will be noticed within a few years as the newer students start to graduate. Furthermore, even if we ignore this issue, we can see that the quality of education and graduates has already been declining for the university. This is apparent, and then we can start linking to the feedback stuff that we saw from the fact that the student survey results indicate that only 83% of students were happy with the quality of teaching as compared to last year. Last year's 86%. In addition, only 82% of students felt that they received good advice and support from the academic staff as compared to 86% last year. And course administration, yeah, we could argue that part of this as well. And what's more, only 81% of students felt that the courses were well organized and administered as compared to last year. Administered as compared to last year. And we can see that this is likely due to, let's just say remove the even if you ignore this issue part, because this is actually related to this issue. That all of these could be due to the higher number of students. Now, we saw that the ratio of staff members to students has increased. The students to staff members has increased, meaning they didn't hire as many new staff members. And if I remember correctly, when we were looking through the expenses, we had the staff costs, academic staff costs and administrative staff costs. Though this wouldn't give us the exact number for the increase in number of or decrease in number of teachers or students, we can combine the percentage changes here along with the information that we have over here from the staff retention rate to make a point like that. Let's just bring it all together. So now notice that these numbers are in the millions. If you're going to use the same 148, 135.6, then you need to put dollars, millions in your headings. Since we haven't put that here and we're using number of students as well, we'll put in the whole million amount so that it's actually consistent. So we'll put in academic staff costs and admin staff costs. So this is 50.4 million this year and 48 million last year. Oh right, this is the admin staff, and the academic staff costs are 80.8 million this year, sorry. Let's just format these. And 76.2 million last year. And we can just copy paste the formula. So we can see that the academic staff costs have increased by 6% and admin staff costs have increased by 5%, which is way less than the 12.5%. So they haven't increased by the same amount. Furthermore, given the fact that usually there's inflation, we could expect that some of the increase is just because of the increase in salaries due to inflation, that the actual increase in the staff numbers are even lower than the 6.04 and 5% suggest. But let's make these points. All these could be due to the high number of students which have not been offset with the corresponding similar increase in staff members. This is apparent from the fact that academic staff costs have only increased by 6% and admin staff costs have only increased by 5%, in contrast with the 12.5% increase in students. Given that some of this increase would likely be due to pay rises, the actual increase in staff would probably be even lower. To add to this, and then we can link the other key information, the staff retention rate and the ratio of students to staff. To add to this, the students to staff ratio increased to 40:1 from 35:1, which further corroborates this point. No doubt, having fewer staff members per student would lead to a lower quality of education being provided, right? So we've linked all of these different metrics from across different areas to make our point. Now, you've seen that we've done our calculation only for the relevant things regarding this heading. Another technique that they sometimes use is they do all the calculations in one place, like maybe make an appendix for calculations and then start making the points. But the reason I prefer doing it this way is because you only make the relevant calculations which you need to relating to those specific points. So regarding this particular area, we've made the relevant calculations here and made the relevant points down below. Furthermore, there's only 4 marks for calculations. Do we really need to calculate each and everything up here? If it's not, some might not be relevant to any of the points we make, right? So that's why I prefer this technique. But yes, you could technically just make an appendix of all the calculations and then start making your points and linking them to those various calculations. Still a few points we can make. Let's just quickly make them so that we can move on to the other aims. So we've talked about the quality of education from that aspect, but we can also mention the students graduating with a first class honors degree and employers happy with the graduates from Robin Hood University, as well as how quickly the graduates found jobs. Additionally, the problem of lowering quality of education has been going on for a few years, even before this increase in students. This can be seen from the fact that the percentage of students graduating with a first class honors degree has drastically decreased from 28% last year to 20% this year, right? And then there is the fact that only 72% of employees were happy with the university graduates of this year as compared to last year's 75%. And since we're making a point about employees, let's keep this separate, and we can link this to the next part where this data gathered from students who graduated in 2015 showed that 65% found a graduate job within 1 year and 68% found a job within 1 year in 2014. The fact that 68% students from 2014 found a job within 1 year, but only 65% graduates from last year found a job in the same time, shows that the negative impression on employers is starting to take effect. Thus, all round, it seems the university is not doing very well in its strategic aim of providing high quality education, which will help prepare students for life and the workplace, right? So we give a small conclusion based on all our points. Now, there are more points we could make. We still haven't talked about the overall satisfaction, the personal development. The personal development is an important point actually, because the part about helping them for life. So let's just mention that. Let's just mention this point up before the conclusion. The student survey also shows that 82% students felt the course helped their personal development. As compared to 80% last year. Oh, so this actually improved. This is good from the standpoint of how well the company is preparing students for life in general, right? Because that's part of the aim. The aim has several parts for the workplace, but as well as for life, success in life. It's preparing students for success in life. Thus, for the large part, rather than all round, because that's one good point. Thus, for most of the part, right? So we have our conclusion as well. Okay, let's move on to the next point. Like I said, there's more points we can make, but we have to keep time in mind. So generally, you should be taking around 40 minutes or 45 at most to do such a question, because MCQs take a bit less time. Though you have 36 minutes by pure exam standards, you can afford to take 40 to 45 minutes since you'll take less time for the MCQs. But yeah, we should move on. Okay, the second part is to provide an organized, efficient learning environment with access to cutting-edge technology and facilities. So let's just write that down. To provide an organized, efficient learning environment with cutting edge technology and facilities. I think in the financial statements we had something for this, right? We had premises, facilities, and technology costs, so we can talk about those. So let's start with just copying our format from above. So again, we start by putting the calculations on top so that it's easier for the market to see a format and for them to follow. Facility tech costs, right? Ideally in the exam, put the actual name that there is there. I'm doing this because I need to fit everything on screen so that it's easy for you guys to follow, right? This is 7.6 million this year and 8.4 million last year. So there's a 9.5% decrease, which is not good, because on one hand your students have increased by 12.5%. you would expect these costs to increase as well. More students, you need more technology, more facilities, and to maintain them at the required level of quality. So this is not a good indication. Let's see if there's any other points we can make. From our survey, we can see that the learning resources, the standard of rooms, facilities, and equipment is good. You can see that the feedback has fallen, so we'll link this point over here. Staff retention rate, again, it's not relevant here. Is there anything about facilities here? In 2015, Robin Holt won the Green Environmental Award for the campuses, which all have extensive recycling facilities. So they won an award last year, and students were involved in a local grow to give food sharing project, which thousands of food was produced, but due to staff shortages, they were not involved in this project in 2016, and the recycling bins have also been used up. So this is an environmental point, and then there's a point for research and innovation. Let's just go see the other strategic aims to see if these points relate to them. So to be a leader in sustainable business practices which protect the environment. So that point will be related to this. Innovative conference, that will be related to this. Research. So all those points are related to this. So for tech, it's basically we're down to this feedback and the fact that the tech costs haven't increased, rather they have decreased. Any other points we can make from the finances? No, then it's event, conference, research grants, and sustainability, which is the environment. So that's for the other strategic aims. So let's just make this point then. And notice that our first point to strategic aim took a lot of time. There were a lot of points to make, and usually that's how it works. The subsequent points usually take a bit less time because they have fewer points to make. Anyway, the facility and technology costs fell by 9.5% approximately. This is surprising given the increase of 12.5% in the number of students. One would expect that a similar increase would be found in these costs. More students would require more technology and facilities. Furthermore, the fact is that rather than increasing, they actually decreased, meaning it is unlikely that they were even maintaining the same standard of technology and facilities from previous years, right? So even forget increasing, it actually decreased. At least they should have maintained the same level of expense so that they could maintain the level of quality from previous years. And then we link this point to the feedback. This is ultimately reflected in the survey. This is ultimately reflected in the student survey, where only 83% were satisfied, were happy with the standard of rooms, facilities, and equipment as compared to 92% last year. Once again, it seems like the university is not performing well in regards to this strategic aim. So we end with a small conclusion for this one as well. Okay, let's move on to the next one. After that, it says to be a leader in sustainable business practices and protect environment and support local people. So two parts: protect the environment and support local people. It's very easy to just mesh all of this together, but there's two separate parts, so we should ideally look to make two separate points. To be a leader in sustainable business practices which help the environment and support local people. So first, the expenses, sustainability and community assistance expense, we can see that it's actually halved. So it went from 2.4 million to 1.2 million. So already there's something bad going on, and I don't think we can link it to any of the other things. We haven't made a point for tuition fees, which we should. We'll see where we can fit that in as we go along. Research grants and conferences will probably link to the next point. So one has to do with research, one has to do with conferences. So we'll get back to that. Okay. Anything from the survey that we can talk about? Not really, but we can mention, of course, the green award that they won last year for recycling facilities. That's for the environment, but they didn't do it this year, and they didn't get an award obviously either. And the initiative to provide fresh produce to poorer residents, which they didn't do due to staff shortages, and we can link this again back to the higher number of students not compensated by the corresponding increase in staff. So let's first start with the expenses. Let's just copy this format from above. So this time it was, what was the expense name again? It was sustainability and community assistance. Sustainability and community assistance. Right? In the exam, you'd stretch it out. Right now, I won't do it so that everything stays on screen. This is 1.2 million. This is 2.4 million. Obviously, that's a 50% decrease. The university has substantially decreased its expenses in this area. Now there's two ways we could go about making our point, right? Those two ways are, one, they reduced their expenses, and because of that they had all these issues that they couldn't continue the recycling bins and they couldn't provide the food services. But on the flip side, we could also sort of not twist necessarily, but give a different perspective that they knew they had fewer teachers and they wouldn't be able to provide the recycling services. And they felt that this might also result in teachers not being able to help the students provide the food to the poor residents. So because they knew this fact that they were already struggling with the lack of teachers, they purposefully then ignored this area and reduced the spending there. Both points could be made. I think let's go with the second one just because it's a bit different. So last year the university had done well by winning an environmental award as well as providing food to poorer residents. This year, they were unable to continue the recycling scheme, which won them the award due to shortages in staff. This shortage, as we know, was due to 12.5% more students not being offset with the corresponding increase in staff numbers. It is possible, due to the university struggling with staff shortage in this area as well as others, that the university this was unable to, which one of them about due to, no, they didn't do the food provision in 2016 due to staff shortages. The recycling bins have been abandoned because of the cost of using them. Sorry. So let's just modify this point. They were unable to continue the food scheme providing initiative. Scheme sounds a bit negative, due to shortages of staff. That the university decided to pay less attention to this overall strategic aim, which could explain why they cut back on recycling bins, knowing that this aim would not be achieved anyway, right? So we've made a different sort of point, but you could just have made the point that they didn't meet their performance. Once again, the university has failed to meet this strategic aim. Okay, so let's move on because we're running low on time. Let's move to point number 4, to provide attractive, innovative conference event facilities, attracting clients both nationally and internationally. So let's quickly make our points for this. To provide good conference and event facilities to attract clients. Right, so we can start by once again copying this calculation format, and there will be a few numbers for this. There's the conferences and events income as well as the expenses. So conference income and conference expenses. So conference income was 18 million this year and 16 million last year. So 18 million and 16 million. And the expenses were 8.3 million this year and 8 million last year. Okay, so this is good. Conference income has actually increased by 12.5%, and the expenses have increased as well in line with the income, but only by 3.75%. So they seem to have done well here actually. Let's see if there's any feedback. Surveys, I don't think the students would give any survey feedback for the conferences. Rather, there was something mentioned down below. Every year the university issues a range of prestigious, the University Research Council issues a range of prestigious awards for contributions to research. One of their main competitors in the area won an award in 2015 for their contribution for some pioneering research on genetics. They have yet to win an award for research. This is the last strategic aim. They did win an award in 2015 for innovation for the new conference facilities, which have attracted new clients in the last year. So that explains why. The university won an award in innovation last year for its new conference facilities. This has improved their reputation and attracted new customers. This can be seen from the 12.5% increase in income from conferences and events. The 3.75% increase in related costs is expected due to the increase in income. However, the fact that income increased by a much larger amount than expenses means that the university has been very efficient in growing in this area. Thus, the university has done well this year with regards to this strategic aim. So on our timer, we're touching 48 minutes now. Obviously, the introduction that I gave you guys took like about 5-6 minutes in its own right. So we'll still be approaching a 45-minute mark for the question. So in the exam, when you're faced with such a circumstance, just quickly do hit the final aim, right? Don't skip it. Hit the final strategic aim, but then immediately move on to the next question. Don't worry about making any more points after that, okay? That's just for exam standpoint. From our question standpoint, we'll do this and give a conclusion just so that we can understand how to make a comprehensive answer for this. Okay, so the last one is to be recognized for the scope and relevance of the research. To be recognized for the scope and relevance of their research. So again, we'll have research grants income and we have research grants and expenses. We can copy this format from above. So now this will become research income and research expenses. So this was 3.5 million this year, 4.5 million last year, so there's a decrease of around 22%, and this was 3.1 million this year and 4 million last year, which is also a decrease of around 22%. So it's a similar decrease. So what happened? What caused this decrease? Any feedback? Again, student surveys won't relate to the feedback, I'm sure, so nothing there. So in the last one, it said, the University Research Council issues a range of awards for contributions to research. One of Robin Hood University's main competitors in the area won an award due to their research in genetics. And Robin Hood themselves have yet to win an award. So it's very possible the competitor won the award. Because of that, they started receiving more grants. So research, the way it works for universities is that if you do good research in a university, more companies or people will try to sponsor your research and give you research grants, which is basically the research income. But if your competitor is doing good research, those grants will go to them and you'll get fewer grants. And because you get fewer grants, you'll spend less money as well on the research. Which means that not only is this a bad thing for Robin Hood this year, that they were able to do less research and not able to achieve their goals, but the fact that they don't have an award, and the other university which did get the award and more funding, their chances of getting another award will increase, whereas Robinhood's chances of getting an award will decrease in the future as well. So let's talk about that. So one of Robinhood's competitors won an award last year with regards to their research. Robinhood themselves are yet to win any award, any such award. This no doubt has reflected poorly on Robinhood's performance in this area. The competitor likely received more grants this year, and Robinhood received fewer grants, which caused their research income to fall by 22%. This forced Robinhood to decrease their corresponding spending by 22% as well. This will likely not only result in a poor performance this year, but also decrease the university's chances of getting an award in the future due to less research being financed or funded, right? So technically, time-wise, we should stop here and move on, but like I said, now this is just for our understanding. Let's give a conclusion as well. That's good practice. Is it absolutely essential? No, but it's good to have. It could potentially give a few more marks. So like I mentioned, we didn't talk about certain things like the overall satisfaction, staff retention rate, etc., because we could have potentially linked to one of the points, but it's not a direct link. We didn't talk about the tuition fees as well. But now that we're giving a conclusion, we can give an overall picture of the story to just sum up. Ultimately, the university has performed poorly with regards to most of their strategic aims. This mostly comes down to the increase in students, which was not properly managed due to staff not increasing by the same amount. However, we should consider the fact that, and we can just talk about the tuition fees, how much they changed by. Tuition fees went to 148 million from 135.6 million. So a 9.14% increase. So the increase in students brought in an increase in tuition fees, but not by the same amount. So tuition fees increased by 9% due to the higher number of students, which also caused the surplus, and we can see that the surplus has also increased, doubled actually. it went from 9.1 to 18.1. So what's going on here is that on one side, the university is suffering in the strategic aims, but you can see most of the strategic aims are qualitative. They're not, or something to do with the environment, or this like corporate social responsibility related stuff. They're not financial, but the financial performance has actually improved. So they might be trying to improve their financial performance, which has also caused the surplus to almost double. Thus, while the university improved, did not meet most of its strategic aims, it did improve its overall financial performance. Right? Now again, these points are not related to any particular strategic aim, so we shouldn't be spending too much time on that. But I want to just help you with the analysis, better understanding of what's going on. This is just, think of this as practice. Like I said, in theory, we should have just stopped before the conclusion. But we can mention that even though the financial performance has improved, there is an issue. All the other things, the overall satisfaction has gone down and the other feedbacks have gone down. The qualitative aspects, financial performance has to do with your past year. The future performance is with your non-financial and qualitative factors. And as we've seen, the performance there is bad, given the staff retention and everything, right? So we can mention that even though they were able to do this step and improve their financial performance for the time being, in the future, the negative things will come to fruition and the financial performance will also likely fall. That being said, the overall satisfaction of students, the important metric of overall satisfaction of students has decreased from 83% last year to 81% this year, and staff retention has decreased from 90% last year to 75% this year. This combined with their poor performance in other non-financial areas indicates that the future performance will not be good, and that if things are not changed, the financial performance in the future will also suffer. Right? So there's our conclusion. Again, not necessary. This is just to help you to develop a better understanding of how analysis works, because the way to get better at analysis is to practice more. But from an exam standpoint, you just stop before the conclusion, right? So we've run a bit long on the video, but hopefully it's given you a good idea, more confidence on how to perform analysis in these questions, and a better idea on how to structure your answer. Strongly recommended. Practice this, Jungle Co, Best Night Co, on your own. See how many points you can make within the allotted time. Give yourself about 40 to 45 minutes and see how it works out, right? And never get bogged down on a question and spend too much time. If you're running short on time, just move on. But try to hit all the requirements. At least write something for each of the requirements. So hopefully this helps you guys out, and all the best for the exam. I'll see you guys next time.